slideshow beginning. Right? So this time, let's talk about switch statements. So since we're already done with the conditional, with the if-else statement, switch statement is still another type of conditional statement. Alright, now let's proceed to the definition right away. So the switch statement is used to select one of many code blocks to be executed. So the general idea of the if statement is that it will be executed kung ang condition is true, right? So again, going back in our if and else statement, we create, or basically it was the statement will be executed if the condition is true. Yun sa nato pag-create of condition using using relational operators and logical operators. This time, the switch statement is used to select one of the many code blocks to be executed. So same thing gyapon. It will be executed. The codes will be executed, but instead of creating conditions, basically it will be executed depending on unsa atong type. So sa if and else statement, the statement will be executed if the condition is true. So how do we know if the condition is true? If we're going to combine, if we're going to compare, let's say, variables, diba? This time, dili na ta kinahanglan mo-compare. It will just automatically, the codes will be executed depending on sa atong gi-input nga number or value. So di na ta kinahanglan mo-compare, but it will the codes will just be executed depending on the value that we've entered. So basically this is the syntax. So we write the switch, and notice that we are no longer calling it condition, but this time we are calling it expression. That means when unsa man gani atong gi-input, then it will be executed depending on the input, the number or the value of the input, the input expression. So it's no longer a condition, but we call it expression. So again, we write switch and then the expression, and then open and close angle brackets, and then we have here case, then for example x or case y, and then default. Alright, so let's try to translate this into if statement. So the switch here can be compared to the if, the word nga if, and then the expression can be compared to the condition, diba? And then case here can be compared to the if, and then else if, and then the default is going to be else. Alright, so I know sayo na lang na ninyo. So basically we're going to set the condition, and then if it is true, if whatever it is that the value that we enter, for example, if ang expression is 1, then every time that we enter 1, this will be executed. If we enter 2, this will be executed, so on and so forth. So how it works, the switch expression is evaluated once. Same thing with the condition. Iyang i-check ang condition whether true or false. But this time, it is just going to compare it with the value of each case. So the value of the expression is compared with the values of each case. Lobat na jud akong mouse. And then if there is a match, the associated block of code is executed. And then the break keyword breaks out the switch block, and then the default keyword specifies code to run if there is no match. So basically, we are just going to match. If katong sa ato ang if else statement kinahanglan nato i-compare, then it will rely whether the statement is or the condition is true or false. In the switch statement, we are just going to match. Ato ra siyang i-match, ug unsa gani i-output niya sa expression, ato ra siyang i-match sa cases. Alright, I'm not sure if that makes sense. Let's just take a look on our example in just a moment. So how it works, again, the switch expression is evaluated once. The value of the expression is compared with the values of each case, and then if there is a match, the associated block of code will be executed, and the break and default keywords are optional, and we'll discuss it in just a moment. Alright, so let's take a look at let's analyze the switch flowchart. So we have here an expression. So if kanudom sa atong if else statement, this will be the part nga atong atong declare ang condition, di ba? Now, if the expression, for example, we will say that the expression is number 1 the good, then is that expression matched to the case? Let's say, for example, case 1 does it match? So if it yes, then the code block will be executed. So if no, it will check on the next case. Then if it match, then it will execute the code block. But if dili gyapon siya, it will proceed to the next case, so on and so forth until such time that nahurot na mga cases, but there will be no match. Then we have here a default code. So it's similar to the else statement. All right. So let's take a look at this example. I'm not sure if that made sense, but let's take a look at this example. So we have here an integer day is equals to 4. So we have here our value is 4, diba? That is for our day. Now we are going to create switch, and then the expression is day. So that means whatever it is that the value of the variable day, then this will be executed. So here, let's take a look. Unsa siguro yung value sa atong day? Anyone? Okay, go ahead. Let's go back. Again, int day is equals to 4. And then we created a switch here, and then the expression says day. So basically, day holds a value, and that is what we are trying to switch. So unsa value sa atong day here? 4. All right. So basically, ang buhaton sa switch statement is iyang i-check ang value sa day, which is 4, and then iyang i-compare sa mga cases nga gi-create. So here we have here case 1, it will display Monday if it's, and then break, meaning it's the end of the case. Case 2 if it's Tuesday, so on and so forth. So notice nga mag-write ta og cases, case numbers. So what we are expecting is 4. So on the first case, it will say the switch will check whether or not this case is match ba siya ang 1 ni match ba ang 1 og 4. Nagmatch ba siya? Case 1 wala, di ba? So therefore, it will proceed to the next case, which is 2. Nagmatch ba? Wala. So it will continue to check the cases, diba? 1, 2, 3, 4 until such time nga makita na niya ang cases, a case that will match to the expression, which is 4. And then if ma-match na niya, that's the time that whatever it is that inside this case will be executed. Diba? So same, pare-pare siya sa if-else statement, but this time there are no more condition. It will just going to match whatever it is nga atong gi-input sa expression. So again, so each of the block of codes will be written inside a case. So case 1, case 2, for example, and then until such time that it will find the matching case, then whatever it is that is, whatever the codes inside that particular case will be executed. So for example here, since it match up man siya sa course sa case 4, then we know that the case 4 will be executed. Okay. All right. Now, since ni-match naman siya, then it will no longer proceed to the next because we've already set a break. Okay. So, basically, this is how we're going to write it. First is we write our switch nga word, and then our expression, and then our case, and then the value of that possible cases, and then semicolon, and inside, after that, we're going to write whatever it is that we're going to perform. It could be either arithmetic operation. In this example, it's just a simple output, and then break. So always remember to write break in every case. That means it is the end of that particular case. So dapat if pitan dili mo match ang case 1, then break it, proceed to the next. Nana ba? Right? So again, we have case, and then the value, semicolon. Colon rather. Colon, dili siya semicolon, but colon rather, and then the codes to be executed, and then break. Okay? So let's try that. Unfortunately, wala ko yung mouse. Hajukimasu. So let's create a new project. Alright, so again, we're going to create our variable here, int day, and then let's write our switch, meaning depending on the value of our expression, the cases will be executed. So we have switch, and then our expression, day, and then our block of code. Same thing rin gihapon. So basically, it's almost the same with the if statement. But instead of using if, else, if, something like that, we're going to use cases. So case 1. So for example, our day is, let's say, 1. Right? So the case 1, meaning if we enter 1, if the value of day is 1, then it will say see out, let's say, Monday. And then, say sunod gani ane? Break. Okay? So meaning if humana ang ang case, humana ang code sa case, then we'll add a break. Next, case 2. If we enter 2, case 2, then it will display Tuesday. And then break. Case 3, and then let me just copy paste it para mapaspas madali ta. Let me copy that. It will say Tuesday, Wednesday, and then let's say case 4, case 5, see out, and then Friday. Then case 6, Saturday, and then lastly case 7, Sunday. Right. Alright. So however, if we've entered any number which is not 1 to 7, let's say we've entered 8. So wala na siya sa atong cases, right? So how do we write it? Saan na to siguro siya? We're going to write a default, meaning if wala gani siya na-exist sa atong mga cases, it will say a default. So mura siya, o sa if else pa, mura siya else, di ba? You entered invalid day na lang, invalid day. Ana na lang. And then break. Alright, so let's analyze our program. So again, we have here a variable that says int day is 1. Now, we've created a switch statement that holds the expression day, that holds the value of the variable day. So what is the value of day here? 1. Diba? So using our cases, we are trying to compare the value of day to the list of cases that we have. So by the way, as for the case value, it would be totally up to us. Alright? So pwede gani ABC ba na siya, or 1, 2, 3, 4, depending on us, depending on the list of murabag choices nga that we wanted to add in our program. Diba? Siya mura tag gaset of condition, but instead of condition, we are trying to set a value. Then, if ever that value matches on the expression, then that case will be executed. Okay? So, on the first one, let's just call it case 1. Okay? So, whenever the case 1 will match, it will display the code, and since the code here says see out Monday, so it will just output the word Monday only if the case matches on the expression. The expression here is day. Do you think that match? The day is 1 and then case 1. Ni-match ba siya? Ni-match siya. So therefore, this should be executed, right? However, if let's say 6, ni-match ba siya sa first case? Wala. So it will proceed to the next case. Now, ni-match ba gihapon siya? Wala gihapon. So it will break and then proceed to the next case. So case 3 until such time that it will match to the one of the cases. So since ni-match man siya diri sa Saturday, then this code will be executed. Now, what if we enter a number which is outside our case values? So let's say 8. So it try niya og check case 1, case 2, case wala man jud siya ni match, then that's that time that it will display a default value which is invalid day. All right? So let's save that. Let's write switch 3 and then execute, compile and run. Kana. All right, thank you. All right, so let's compile and run the code. Oops. Asa man siya nasayo? Hold on. Kulag usa ka bracket rather. Sakto. We have to close our bracket again. Diyan na po kon sayop. Since we are trying to close the bracket for our switch, di ba? Inside the switch na siya. And then pinakalas nga bracket will close our int main nga bracket. So yes, the bracket, and then we can also add return 0. That is actually it will work bisag wala tayo return 0, but just a practice, let's just add return 0 because we will use return 0 if there will be more than one function. Right now, since we only have one function, which is our main function, so that's the reason why right now it doesn't matter if we're going to add return 0. The return 0 will only be useful if we have 2 or more functions. But of course, let's just add return 0 for formality. Alright, so let's execute that, compile and run. Again, we've entered 8, so therefore it says invalid day. Diba? And then if we're going to, let's change it to, let's say 2, save that, compile and run, it will say Tuesday because it matched on case number 2, which is Tuesday. Alright? Question? Alright. So, maybe na ay question ani possible nga question is, sir, dapat ra ba jud nga number? Dapat jud 1 2 3 4 na? No. It would be up to you ug unsa man gani imong ibutang nga case. Alright? So, we can either say let's say string. We can use string and then let's say Monday. We can either change our case to, let's say, Monday. Ana? Pwede na to na iset. So let's check. Save, compile and run. String day Monday. Ano sa error niya? Monday was not declared. Alright, thank you. Tada. Nada. May radyoning na ay mag-review sa Hiza. Alright, let's save that. Execute. Compile and run. Ano na po? Hindi na po siya. Okay. Alright. Okay, so one more thing. Sayop na po sir. We're only going to use switch for integer. Okay, now it says here, switch quantity, not an integer. Alright, so here's the thing. We'll only be using switch for integers. Okay, so for example, but for the value of our cases should always be numbered, guys. Sorry about that. So it should always be a number, but it doesn't matter if unsa nga number imong ibutang. So it could be either mag-start ba ka og 5 diha, mag-start ba kag 6, mag-start ba kag any other number, so long, it would be totally up to you so long as it's an integer. Sayop na po si sir. Alright, so again, the switch statement will only be useful for integers. So as for the conditions a while ago, the if and else statement, it will work with any other data types. For the switch, it will only work for integer. So that means if we're going to create a program that will look something like this, we are going to represent this, for example, Monday with a number. Alright, do you follow? Okay, let's check. Let's proceed now. Alright, so let's analyze our program here. So we have here an integer day is equals to 4. So first is the expression is evaluated as the variable day because we have here switch and then day. So we are trying to create, evaluate our expression here, and since our expression here is day, it will hold unsa may value gani sa ato ang day nga variable. So we have here, if expression is day is equals to 1, it will display Monday. But since this is 4, then it will proceed to case 4, which ipangitaon og asa siya ni match, and then it will display whatever it is that inside that particular case. And always remember that each case must contain a break. And that way, it will automatically proceed to the next case, whether if that particular case does not match to our expression. All right. So same thing again here. So we have here another switch example, and then we have here another day is equals to 4. So switch day is, if it's 6, then it will say Saturday. If it's 7, it will Sunday. However, since 4 wala man siya ni match atong cases, which is only 6 and 7, then it will display the default message that says have a great school day. All right. And then for in C++, we can have an inner switch embedded in our outer switch. Also, the case constants of the inner and outer switch may have common values without any conflict. So basically, we can also use nested switch statements. So since you already have an idea what nested means, so unsa siguro atong ka-expect ani. So basically, we can create switch statement inside another switch statement, just like what we did with the if-else statement a while ago. So for example, we are going to create a program that will let a user enter his or her user ID and password. If the password matches on the user ID, the program will display welcome. If it does not match, it will display incorrect password. If the user ID does not exist, the program will display incorrect ID. Right? So this time we're going to create a nested switch statement. So same idea ra gyapon sa atong if else before, we are going to create a switch statement inside another switch statement. Okay? Alright, so let's try to create that. Hold on. So wala mouse. Okay, let me erase all of this, guys, okay? Erase na ito na. Alright, so again, we're going to create a program that will ask for the user ID and then a password. But if the password, if pag sayop ang password, it will display incorrect password. If sayop ang user ID, mayroon siyang invalid ID, so on and so forth. Okay? So first is we're going to create a variable for our user ID. Let's call it user ID, and then let's try, since let's just say 500. So our user ID is 500 or 500, and then password, let's say 1234. Okay, so that means we should enter the user name and password according to this value. If dili gani kani atong ibutang, then it will return an error message. So first is we're going to create a an output saying, let's say login, please enter ID. Alright, and then same thing, cin, let's save it to user ID. And then after that, we're going to create a switch statement. So unsa siguro atong himuon nga expression dire? Again, we are trying to check whether or not the user ID match or wala ba. So unsa siguro atong himuong expression? Okay, that's right. So we're going to set the user ID to be our expression. We're going to check the value of the user ID. So the expression is user ID. Now, inside the user ID, we're going to check unsa gani mo match. So let's say case, and then is unsa siguro atong yung una nga case? 500, because our username is 500. So case 500, and then it will display cout enter your password. Okay, alright, thank you. That's right, so colon instead of semicolon. Alright, and then once we entered 500 as our user ID, it will proceed on asking what is the password. Diba? However, if dili 500 atong ang atong enter, it will proceed with a default value later on. Okay? So again, if we've entered 500 for the value of our user, then it will display this. First, it's going to ask for the password. So obviously, we're going to use the cout and then cin and then save it to our password. Now, this time, we are going to check if the password is correct. Diba? So, any idea unsa na ito pagkabalo nga ang password ni match ba siya dire? Any idea how we're going to do that? Okay, we are going to make use of this another switch again. So, that's the time that we will create a nested switch. So, we're going to create a switch, and then the expression would be unsa man? Password. All right. So again, this switch will only be accepted only if sakto ang ato ang expression in the first place. Diba? Same thing gyapon siya if else statement. So we're going to create a bracket here and a case, and then what should be our case for it to be true, for it to be executed? 1 2 3 4. Alright, so we have a case here nga pag 1, 2, 3, 4 gani ang iyang i-enter, it will display, let's say, nanapod, semicolon na pod, dapat, colon, alright. Again, if we enter ta og 1, 2, 3, 4, it will display, let's say, welcome. Alright. However, if dili gani 1, 2, 3, 4 ang atong i-enter, mo hatag siya error message. So therefore, that's right, we are going to create a default nga. So it should be inside our block. So default, and then let's say kulang, dapat na atay break. Alright, don't forget our break. And then again default, let's say cout incorrect password. And then break. Alright. So again, let's go back. If we've entered 500 on our user, it will display enter your password. However, since we are going to check whether the password match or not, we are going to create another switch statement. And then here, we created a switch, and then the expression is password. So the nested switch is, whenever our first case, if we enter 1, 2, 3, 4, which is our password, it will display welcome. But if we enter tag any other number aside from this, it will display incorrect password. Right? Diba? Okay, so that's it for our nested switch. What about if we enter tag any other number aside from 500, which is not our user number, user ID. How are we going to fix that? Unsaon siguro na to? Remember that this will only be executed if case is 500. What if we enter kog any other number? Unsaon na to siya? Anyone? Default, alright? But make sure that the default that we'll be using would be partner aning atong first case. Alright? So we're going to create another default here. And then let's call it, let's say cout invalid ID. And then break. And then return 0. Alright, let's analyze our program. So first is we've declared our variables that our user ID must be 500 and then the password is 1234, right? Now, first is it will ask login, please enter ID, and then it will save on the user ID. Now, okay, sayop. So dapat user ID na siya. Alright. So we've created a switch to check whether the user ID matched on our user ID. Okay? Again, we've created a switch to check whether the user ID nga gi-input sa user matched on the save atong gina-save nga user ID, right? So we've created a case that is exactly the user ID that is required, and then it will say enter your password. Now, since we are trying to check whether the password matched on the password that is given here, then we are going to create another switch statement. Thus, we are creating a nested switch statement. This time, we're going to create a switch that will check whether the password is going to match on what we've entered. So if the user entered 1234, which is our password nga kinahanglan, it will display welcome. However, if the password nga gi-enter is not 1234, it didn't match to our switch case, to our expression, then it will display incorrect password. Alright? So that is if the user entered the correct user ID. However, if the user ID entered does not match here, then it will display invalid ID. Do you follow, guys? Alright, let's execute, compile and run. Please take note because this will be our assessment activity today. I'll give you 30 minutes and then to create to work with our assessment. So for example, login, please enter ID. So if we're going to enter, let's say 1234, obviously that is not what we want, right? So if we're going to click enter, it will say invalid ID, right? Because that is our default. However, if we entered, let's say, compile and run, let's enter our case number, which is 500. Di na ako ma-scroll up and down, guys, kay ko. Ang saan ni pag-scroll up? Na di na ako ka-scroll up kay lobat ako. Na. Makita ra ba ninyo? Di man ako ma-zoom. Di na ako ma-zoom in kay lobat na akong mouse. Wala na siya battery. Alright, again, so if we're going to enter our user ID, which is 500, it will ask for the password. So enter your password. If we will say 1234, it will display welcome. Or mayroon lagi siya invalid ID. Let me check. I think na-save na punta sa ato ang hold on. Break. Alright, wala din nato gi-break ang atong case 500. Alright? So let's break our case 500 sa break. Okay, mutong nibalik siya. Diba? Always every time that we're going to create a case, dapat na siya break, diba? Sa ending. So since we have here a case, then we have here the codes, we should always have a break before we proceed to the next case, which in our case is default. So let's try that again. So login user ID is 500, enter 1234, it will display welcome, right? However, if we're going to let's try again. if we'll say 500, and then the password is kana dili siya mo match, let's say 000, it will display incorrect password. Okay, do you have any questions? Alright, so as promised, we're going to have a live activity. So dali ra siya kaayo, similar siya sa previous nga akong example. So let's make it let's do this now. So as your assessment activity, so that means you're going to do it today. Right now, we're going to stay on the line, or yeah, we're going to stay on the line, and then you're going to do it. I'm going to give you 30 minutes to work for this. You're going to create a C++ program that will display the month the user entered. I'm not sure if that made sense, but example, enter the month. If we've entered 4, it will display April. Okay, so again, same thing, you're going to use switch statement. So here are the cases. If we enter 1, it will say January, 2 February, 3 is going to be March, 4 April, 5 so on and so forth. Okay, and then you're going to take a screenshot for the codes, and then screenshot for each case. So that means if you have to take a screenshot for case number 1, case number 2, case number 3. So therefore, there will be a total of 13 screenshots, okay? And then you're going to upload it here, and 1, 2, 3, 13 gani. Okay, 14. No need for the default, but it's okay if ganahan mong na i-default. Or let me check my. I think na dapat na i-default. Let me check. I-check sa nako ako ang assessment link. O gibutangan ba na ako of default? Hold on. Oh, na default to. Okay, thank you for that. So, please take a screenshot for the default as well. So that means that is pila naman. 13, 14 screenshots. Alright, so 1 for the code, 1 for January up to 12, that is 12, so 13, and then 1 for the default, that is 14 screenshots. So again, I'm going to give you 30 minutes to work on that. Here, so pag open niyo sa link, here's what's gonna happen. So, for example, pag mahuman na mo, screenshot ninyo to sila tanan. You're going same thing that you've always been doing. Enter the first name and last name, and then here you're going to upload a screenshot. Usa lang kada kuan palihog. So for example, screenshot the code, i-attach niyo ang picture screenshot sa code, and then screenshot for case 1, attach niyo ang screenshot sa output sa case 1, 'di ba? And then case 2, case 3, case 4. Right? So that means you have to make each case work. Huh? Do you follow? So for example, you will set a screenshot for January, February, so on and so forth. Okay? So it's 5:53. So I'm going to give you 30 minutes. So let me set the time here. Let me set the timer. Hold on. We should be done by 6:30, guys, and then balik lang ta so I can discuss the assignment, and then we will end our discussion. So it should end by 6:30 p.m. 6:30. So actually that is pila. 6 ko na lang, 6:25 na lang. We should end by 6:25. That is today. Alright, today 6:25 p.m. Alright? So you may start now, and then if dili kayo, for example, for those who are using smartphones, you can either end, but just make sure to log back in by 6:25, okay? But for the rest nga kaya ra silang cellphone nga mag-online sana Google Meet at the same time working on the program, you may stay on the line. All right? Any questions so far for the assessment? All right. Okay. So let's ayaw na basta pwede nagdili na harong madali basta kay each output ibutang ninyo atong sa katong gibutang nga kuan ba kani. Make sure to segregate them individually. All right. Okay. So I'll give you 30 minutes. We'll be back by 6:25, and then I will ask maybe some of you to present their work. Oh, bitaw, isend na ko ang link sa in harong dali ra pag send ninyo, hold on. Isend na ko, kadali lang. Here, naa sa in messages, click lang niyo to upload the screenshots. Okay. Kani ra nga screen yung ganahan makita, kani, or do you want to move it to any other kuan? Sige, go ahead. Katong dili kaya, you may end but make sure to kuan, log back in by 6:25. Nasa in messages. Sige, mo na lang po ko sa GC karong katong pwede mo maka-end. Nasa messages diri sa Google Meet ako nang gi-send. Let me send it to the GC as well. Okay, let me tayo sa remove sa ako na. Notepad++. Dara, 1 to 12, January, February, March, dayon. Last is default. Okay. Katong mga maglisod o gamit silang phone, if you're connected to Google Meet, you may just end it. You may leave now, but just go back later on. Join in again later on, rather. Wala na dyan ni mamalik.